Well, howdy there, folks. This is your host, ID Jester. Welcome back to Legions of War, the board game slash, hopefully, eventually, computer version that I am creating, and the process behind it, and the rules, and everything you need to know about this game so you can support it, get behind it, let your friends, your family, everyone you know about this game so we can get some of the game publishers out there that are interested to publish this game for everyone to play out there. So it's a high fantasy card game of strategic and tactical warfare between races, 30-60 minutes. Of course, you can read the rest of it there. We've gone through it a couple times, but all rights are reserved by myself and cannot be, this publication can't be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or by any means unless I say you can. So contact me if you're interested. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's get right into it and look at some of the important things. Last episode, we showed you the flow of game play, obviously. Starting over here, working our way down, one turn, switching it, the end becomes the top, the end becomes the top, and the end over here becomes the top over there. And then you're going to proceed back down this way, going back and forth until one side has all of its units removed from the battlefield. So this time we're going to talk about example of play. Now I might separate this into two videos. It just depends how long it takes to actually do it. I think it will probably end up being a little bit long, so we're going to go ahead and separate it because we're going to talk strategy and some of the tactical differences and such. So we've been playing some games. I've got two locations, my opponent's got two locations, and now it comes down to the pivotal, the last location. Whoever wins this location is going to win the game. So I've actually got a couple different ones here. The Kingdom by the Knight and the Crooked Teeth Swamp Hut. And again, all these are going to be randomly face down on the table, and you're not going to know what's coming up or anything like that. And you're just going to flip up the top one. So we're just going to assume that what is drawn is the Kingdom, which is a Knight location. It's a new one for you guys. We have not seen this one before. It's the Blessed Temple. When you win this location, you can heal 2 ally units and up to 2 wounds each. Not that big a deal because whoever wins this location will have their third location in the game. Again, we're just assuming that I have 2 locations and my opponent has 2, just to put a little emphasis on our playthrough here that we really need to win this one, right? And you can see the arrow is pointing to my opponent, which is sitting across from me over there, so he is going to activate first. Let's take a look at our cards that we have in our hands and our opponents. I've just stacked them up because I don't actually want you to actually see everything he's got, because I would like to keep some surprises for you guys. So, there, we'll just do something like that. Alright, so he's got some little tricks up his sleeve that the blue player might be able to do. But anyways, we're looking at the red player, which is us. We got a really good draw. We've been keeping a couple cards in our hands, waiting for the right opportunities. We actually had this Blessed Knight helmet and the Holy Sword. We were waiting to draw a couple knights. And lucky for us, on the last turn, we actually drew a couple knights. So we got a couple knights. We've been holding on to these, hoping to get some knights, because obviously if you can get the items and skills associated with those units, you get a slightly better bonus with them. So I figured I'd wait until the last turn here. We got a nice Holy Sword that we can put on one of our knights. We have 2 knights. We actually have a wizard. And a new card that you guys haven't seen yet, we actually have a monk here. So let's look at him real quick. So 3 health, attacks with 3 dice. He is a melee character. Solitude, all monks will have this power. So if the monk is not adjacent to any other ally unit, they gain +1 attack dice. So obviously keeping this guy by himself would give him a nice little bonus there. And in case he isn't this monk, Again, not all monks are created equal, but this monk has quick reflexes. A monk can choose to switch with an ally one time without it costing an activation. So again, breaking the rules that we talked about up here with the, you can activate a unit, you can delay, you can switch to an adjacent spot with an ally unit, but it does count as an activation. The monk actually, this monk with the quick reflexes actually breaks that rule, and one time you can switch with an ally and it doesn't cost an activation. So good for us. We can use that to our advantage, we're hoping. And another new card for you guys. Actually, two new ones. We have a skill here, which is another knight skill. And we can play this card before activating an ally unit. We can choose an ally unit that can trade places with an adjacent unit, even an enemy unit. And if we associate this or put this card, if the unit chosen in the knight, it can swap places with any other unit. So we're going to use this as a get out of jail free card if the enemy is causing all kinds of trouble. So we can only play this card before activating an ally unit. Obviously, if that ally unit happens to be a knight, then we're going to be able to switch the knight with any other unit on the whole board. So that could be very advantageous to us. So based on the location drawn, it looks like our opponent's going to get to go first, and he is playing the goblin here. I'm actually just going to move this down. Again, I just don't have enough space area. Normally you would just keep your location over here on the side, but I'm just going to set it down over here. So it's kind of sort of out of the way. All right. So he places this down, and of course all goblins come with the super cool ability Goblin Swarm. When a goblin card is played, draw 5 cards from your draw deck and add 1 goblin card to your hand. So when he plays this down, he draws 5 cards from the top of his hand, and oh, lo and behold, guess what? He has drawn another goblin. He shows us that he has drawn the goblin captain card, and he adds that back to his hand. So now we know, oh, he's got more units that he can bring to bear against us, which is not good. So we will, at that point, the blue player decides to pass. So now it comes to us. We can play 1 or 2 cards. What are we going to do? Well, there's the decisions we can make now, because he got to go first. We're going to obviously try to get our wizard out at some point in the game here, and our knights and the monk. And what order are we probably going to play these in? So obviously the wizard is our only ranged unit. The other ones are melee. So we could play, we could play the wizard and then the knight, and then the wizard would be able to attack someone over here. Now the advantage of the wizard is he has this super cool ability, Fireball, where he can choose any enemy up to at least 2 spaces away and do damage. So what we're hoping to do is get a couple blue player cards adjacent to one another so we can activate this Fireball spell. Now, will he fall for our trap? We don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off simple and slow and see what happens. So we're actually going to play our knight. Now, I'm probably going to have to squeeze things together because we're probably going to have a lot of cards probably going to be played this time, because it's obviously very important. We need to win this location. Whoever wins it is going to win the match. So we'll pass it back over to the blue player. At that point, the blue player decides to play his Swamp Hag. Right there. And it decides to then pass as well, because he wants to see what we're up to as we're trying to tactically outthink and outmaneuver and outfight our opponent here. Now it's interesting because we know he's a ranged hero, so he won't be able to attack our knight. He wouldn't obviously attack the goblin, so he's probably looking to attack somebody over here, or he's forcing us not to play 2 cards in a row, because if we played two cards in a row, obviously then his Swamp Hag would be able to attack our wizard first. So it's kind of puts us in a situation of, do we want this guy to be able to attack somebody? Maybe he's going to be able to move it somehow. What possibilities? Oh, there's so many different possibilities that could be going on here. So we're going to stick with our strategy. We're actually going to bring in, we're just going to bring in one more knight. What we're hoping to do is, oops, that's a sword. I'm sorry, that's a holy sword. I can't actually play that as a unit. It's not a unit. I meant to grab this one. Sorry about that. Bring in another knight and see what happens. So again, I'm just going to kind of scrunch everything together, because we're probably going to have quite a few cards being played this time, to give you a thorough example of what's going to happen during the game. So we're going to play one more knight. We're going to see, because our 2 knights, I think we could try to take out that Swamp Hag. Plus, we don't want it to be able to attack another unit over here. So he's kind of forced our hand that way. So good for him. And we're going to play that card, and then we're going to pass. And at that point, oops, let's grab this again. He decides to play a goblin down on the battlefield, and he draws 5 cards from his draw deck and adds a goblin to his hand. Unfortunately for him, he did not draw a goblin this time, so he didn't get one out of that. Sorry to hear for him. And he will be done. So now I'm like, now would be a really good time, I think, to try and cause the blue player to kind of pile up his units. What I can do here is I can actually, I would, if I play this card, it is an item card. Obviously, it's going to give my opponent knowledge of what I have in my hand, and he can kind of try to kill this guy quicker because he's got a nice weapon with him. I can save it till later and see, but I'm thinking, if I play this, it counts as playing a card. So we will play this card, and then hopefully the blue player will play a couple more cards down here at the end. And see if we can get some of his blue cards to pile up, so that way we can get our wizard to do massive amounts of damage to lots of blue cards. That's a strategy we're going to try, and we're going to see if that works. So at this point, he's going to play another goblin. He's saved up his goblins. He was trying to get lots of goblins to come out. So, unfortunately, now we've got a couple goblins out there. So how are we going to respond to that? Well, they're both melee. This goblin is going to be able to attack anyone if we just decide to end the fight. If we decide to pass our turn, we'd only have 2 knights. He would have 3 goblins, a Swamp Hag, plus remember he can play up to 2 more cards. So I think we're going to have to, it's kind of forcing us to play lots of cards here. So we're going to play the monk, and then we are going to play, actually, you know what, take that back. Another card that we didn't looked at yet, a new card for you guys, is actually, you notice this is a Kingdom card. So it is part of the Kingdom set. So when you choose that race, you're going to get this card. You can see we actually have the Queen. For King and Country, when either the King or Queen is in battle, all enemy units roll 2 death save dice. Oh, so obviously getting her out there But protecting her is going to be ultra important because you notice that her special ability is Grace and Beauty. An ally unit adjacent to the queen must take her first 2 wounds. So we want to put her against somebody that has lots and lots of wounds, and the only one that actually has the most wounds, we have a 3, a 1, and these knights actually only have 2 wounds, or 2 life level. So the monk is our best bet. So we're actually going to play the monk and follow that up by the queen. Blue player then decides to pass. He doesn't wish to play any more cards at this time down on the battlefield. Okay. So right now it's 2 knights, with one with a holy sword, a monk, and the queen versus 2 goblins, a swamp hag, and another goblin. Now maybe he just doesn't have any more units to play. Maybe he's waiting to do something later. We could put out the wizard, which would then give us a chance to put him at the end. We can fireball and then fireball again once the end of the turn switches over. Because he would be at the very end, he would actually get 2 fireballs. Unfortunately, we could attack this goblin, and we'd unfortunately attack our knight as well. But I think that is going to be a really good strategy for us. So again, I'm going to slide everything over just slightly more. Let me bring this one to the front so we can see. So we have a little bit more room. Obviously, if you're playing with your partner, you wouldn't be restricted by, desk space. Slide everything over a little bit. There we go. There we go. Alright, so then we have the monk, we have the queen. And you know what? I am going to play the wizard, and then I will be done. So again, once a person passes, the other person can then choose to play 1 or 2 more cards, and the setup for the battle is now complete. So that's it. Setup for the battle is now complete. Doesn't mean that you can't play any more cards. As you can see, we have cards left in our hands. We got an item card left to play yet. We have a skill card that's going to allow us to swap units around on the battlefield, which could be ultra important. And that is it. And I'm thinking, well, we got 2 knights, the holy sword, a monk, and the queen and a wizard versus a couple goblins and a swamp hag. I think we're going to win this. Maybe my opponent just ran out of cards. He does have some cards left, so he's got something that he can possibly do. What is he going to do? So once we finish the setup process, we are then going to look at start activating the units. But before we start doing that, my opponent says, wait a second, I've got a card to play. What are you up to, blue player? He is actually playing the horde card. Play this card anytime before a fight starts. Now remember, we changed fight with battle. This is a battle, so anytime before a fight starts or a battle starts, I'll have to change that text. Horde, add 1 unit from your hand to this fight at the end. Goblin Horde. If you play this card with the goblin in the fight, you can hoard, so you can get this ability, and then you can replace any or all ally units with a goblin unit card from your hand. So he does have a goblin unit in this. So first thing, he gets to hoard, so he gets to add 1 unit from his hand to the end of the fight. So he then draws out his massive, nasty spider and places that at the end. So actually, we're going to slide these guys over a little bit more here. So we got the monk, and then we got the queen, then we have the wizard, then we now have the giant spider, which is so bad for us, because now our strategy of using the wizard to fireball some of his cards and then fireball again because he's going to be at the very end, and he has a raged unit, is now adjacent to a melee unit that is going to eat his face up. Fortunately for us, we do have maybe some tricks up our sleeve yet. So he gets to hoard, and then he can play this card with the goblin card from your hand with any other unit on the board. So he can take his units And this is what's he doing? What's he up to? Well, he is actually going to take bloop, this little goblin right here, Crooked Teeth Goblin, and he's going to replace this Swamp Hag with this goblin here. And now we understand what he was up to with that unit, because now you can see that no longer does he have a ranged unit there. He was using the Swamp Hag as a placeholder because he had already figured out what he wanted to do during the last turn here, the last battle. And now this Sapper unit is between my two knights, so when it decides to explode, it's going to be doing a massive amount of damage to both of my knights. Ow, that is not good. Not good at all. He can, of course, replace any other units that he wanted with goblin units in his hand. Actually, this would go into his discard pile at that point. But just, we don't have a discard pile, so we'll put that right there. No, I'll put his discard pile over here. That's fine. Just so we don't get confused. He actually, unbeknownst to us, because obviously we can't see his hand. Obviously, he's got his hands up away, so we can't see into his hand. But just for demonstration purposes, I'm letting you kind of see. Oh, he played the Horde card as well, so that card is now discarded as well. Start a little discard pile for him there. Unbeknownst to us, he actually has another Sapper card in his hand, which would be ultra good, but he just doesn't have anywhere to play it. That's going to be really good for us. We have, he would like to obviously get in between the Queen and the Monk, or the Queen and the Wizard. Somehow, some way, maybe he can do that. He could replace the Goblin Captain. Obviously, he would blow up the Goblin Captain and the Knight, but it might be worth a sacrifice. The only disadvantage is the Goblin Captain has 3 health. This Goblin only has 2 health. They both attack with 3 dice, both hit with 4. I am going to say, yes, what the heck. We're going to replace the Goblin Captain. No. Actually, he's not going to replace the Goblin Captain. Goblin Captains are kind of important because the Goblin Captains, every other Goblin unit, so this unit wouldn't get the bonus from itself, but every other Goblin unit gains +1 attack dice while a Goblin Captain is in a fight. So now we actually have 2 of them. We're not going to double up bonuses. Every other Goblin unit gains +1 attack dice when a Goblin Captain, but we can keep. By having 2 Goblin Captains, it's going to be harder for them to get rid of the extra attack dice. He would have to kill both of these units before that bonus would go away. Right. Plus, the Goblin Captain, this Goblin Captain can give this Goblin Captain a attack dice, and this Goblin Captain can actually give this Goblin Captain a attack dice. So, oh my, on just playing 1 card, the Horde card here, you can see how different the battlefield is from just a few minutes ago. At that point, it was a couple knights, a monk, a queen, and a wizard versus a couple goblins and a sea swamp hag. And I was feeling really good about things. Now, it's 2 knights, a monk, a queen, and a wizard versus 4 goblins and a giant spider. And now I'm not feeling as comfortable. Plus, he's still got cards in his hand. We still have cards in our hands. Things are going to get really, really interesting here. So, with all that said, we actually have another Goblin Captain over here. I did not see that, so you know what? He will end up replacing that card. He wanted to have 2 Goblin Captains. No. Yes, we will replace it because he actually would not have 3 Goblin Captains. There are only 2 Goblin Captains in the game, so you could not possibly have 3. So we'll just assume that this one was a Sapper. I must have copied and pasted too many times. Okay, anyways. So now he's got a couple sappers and a couple goblin captains and this very dangerous 4 health giant spider. We have a wizard that's kind of out of position. We have a queen that literally can't attack anyone because she's in the middle. We have a monk that's not getting his bonus because he's adjacent to an ally unit. And we do have our knight. We've already shown our hand that we have a holy sword. So that's kind of a bad deal that he knows that. But we've got 2 other cards in here that we can play to maybe alter how this is going to go. So we then start the battle. So activation starts over here towards the location deck first. Top of the round, this goblin is going to go first. Attacks 3 dice. Doesn't have any other... Oh, he does have another bonus because of the goblin captain. So he gets 4 dice, and he's going to attack our knight. So we're actually going to roll this out and show you guys how everything plays out. So 4d6, and we'll choose green for the green goblins, and he attacks our knight. So he rolls a 1-1-5-4. Fortunately for us, this knight is different than all the other knights, and that is armored. So each roll 1 and our opponent's attack dice blocks a wound. So he actually rolled 2 hits, a 4 and a 5, but he also rolled 2 1s, which means they both get blocked. So he does actually no damage whatsoever to the knight. Activation then goes to bloop, the next unit, which happens to be the knight. Before I activate the knight, I can play any cards. I could give it the helmet. I could wait and see if I give the helmet to someone else. What does the helmet do? A unit wearing this helmet blocks 1 wound if a 1 is rolled during the attack. If we give it to a knight, if this item is given to a knight, then the helmet blocks 1 wound from each attack. It doesn't matter if there is a 1 rolled or not. We could... give it to our wizard, maybe to try and keep him up alive a little bit longer. We could actually give it to this knight. Now notice each item has a item slots. You see this holy sword costs us 2 hands. You can have 2 hands worth of weapons plus 1 neck, chest, hip, legs, head items. So obviously this is a head item. If this would happen to be another weapon, we obviously would have to, if we gave this to him, we remove the other weapon and give this weapon to him. I think we're actually going to wait and see how this goes, although he is armored, which is going to help, and if we give him the helmet, that might be, but again, we're with cards in our hand, our opponent doesn't know what we have left to do. If we spend all of our cards, then our opponent knows we have no tricks up our sleeve. So I think I won't do anything. So the knight has a decision to make. He can attack either the goblin on the left or the goblin on the right. They're exactly the same goblin, although getting rid of this goblin would be ultra good. Now, of course, after I decide not to play cards, the opponent could choose to play cards, but he chooses to pass. So now it's up to the knight. The knight is going to attack. He doesn't want to really be between these 2 goblins, because when they explode, he's going to be in big trouble. But getting rid of one of these goblins, probably the first goblin over here. Again, tactical decisions. Which one do we go? If I do damage to this guy's already gone. So he's not going to go for a long time. It's got to go all the way down, and it's got to go all the way back. If the knight can do a lot of damage to this guy, it might force him to explode early in the game. We might be able to get some healing or, something. So with that in mind, the knight, with all that strategy that I'm thinking about in the back of my mind, before I activate my unit, I would assign this blessed helmet to this unit, because I'm thinking, let's bring this to the front. Having this helmet, so when this guy explodes, could actually block 1 wound, so it might actually make the difference between life and or death. So I'm going to assign this. I only have 1 card in my hand. It could be something really good. It could not be something really good. And we know it's really good because it's going to allow us to maybe do some funky business. Maybe do some funky business. Yes. Okay. So this knight then attacks this goblin right here. It's 5 dice. It's not getting any other bonuses that I can see. So it looks like a 5 dice attack. So we have to go in the options. We're going to add another. And knights will roll this shiny little thing there. So he rolls a 4-1, 5-1-4. He hits default, by the way, is 4. It looks like every unit on the board actually is attacking. Some units will attack on a 3+. Some spell abilities and such might, like our wizard power over here, actually attacks, hits on a 3+. But we have a 4-5-4, which does 3 wounds. He does not have any defenses or any bonuses or anything, so we're going to assign 3 wounds to the goblin, which now ends our activation and moves it to the next unit. So it's now the goblin's turn. Before the goblin activates, the blue player can choose to play any cards. He chooses not to. He's saving his cards, waiting for the proper opportunity to do that. Red player can then play cards. Nope, I choose not to. So now the blue player needs to make a decision because he has to make a death saving throw before he can activate his unit. Or he can use his sapper ability, which he can choose to kill himself and do 6d6 hitting on 3s to each adjacent unit. He's only going to fail his attack on a 1. He would have to roll because he's at 3, so he's at -1 hit points. So when you roll a 6-sider, you have to roll higher than your number in negative numbers. So he's at -1 hit point, so he has to roll a 2 or higher on the 6-sider. So he'd only fail 1 out of 6 times. But the goblin thinks that now is the best opportunity to take advantage of his abilities, and he pulls the plug, doing a massive amount of damage, hopefully to both of the knights. So he will be removed from the game, and he's going to be doing a 6d6 hitting on 3s or above. So he's going to roll first for the knight over here on the left. So we need 6d6, so we're going to add actually another d6. Yeah, it doesn't matter, just roll. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, so he has done a 4, a 5, a 4, a 4, and a 1, and a 1. Wow, this goblin is not going to be happy. He just pulled the plug. So again, because this knight is armored, each rolled 1 on an opponent's attack dice blocks a wound. So he actually does 4 wounds, 2 of them being blocked by his 1s. And then he has the helmet, which is on a knight, so it's going to block an additional wound. So after all of that, he does a whopping total of 1 point of, oops, I have to bring that forward, 1 point of damage to this knight over here. Then he will then roll again for the knight over here on the right-hand side. Maybe he can roll a little bit better. We shall see. He rolls a 2, 3, 5, 5, 2, 3. This is much better for that goblin because he hits on 3s and above. So 1, 2, 3, 4 wounds. He rolled no ones, so none of them are being blocked. And he has a holy sword, which is only going to do something for an attack. So he is actually going to take 1, 2, 3, 4 wounds on that. So much more damage to this knight than the other one. Boop. Alright, so now with that done, all of the units will then flow towards the counter there, and we can move this over to that. And now we can move our activation token to the next unit here, which happens to be the knight. Now the knight's in the same situation the goblin was in just a minute ago. He is at 2 life level. He has 4 wounds, so he's at -2. He has no choice but to roll, so he will roll. Oops. Let's start again. 1d6. And ploop. He rolls his death saving throw. He is at -2, so he needs to roll a 3 or higher to succeed. He succeeds, so he's still alive and in the game. So now, obviously, he can choose to either delay, or he can choose to switch with an adjacent unit. Now remember, this guy's already activated, so if he switches with an adjacent unit, this unit won't get to activate again. Or you can choose to activate and try and do some damage to this goblin over here. He will choose to do that. He will choose to activate, so he's rolling 5 dice, so again 4d6. So it should be a total of 5 dice. Actually, oops, I made a mistake. Let me go back. Just when you're trying to do everything, obviously, it's sometimes you forget little things. We forgot when the goblin exploded that he should have gotten 1 extra attack because of the goblin captain there giving him, where is it? +1 attack dice with the goblin captain is activated. So he will have to roll 1 more attack dice on both of the knights. So, which, interesting enough, might actually change things. So, let's remove the dice and 1d6. Sorry, I missed that. I'm sure people out there would have remembered. So we'll do the goblin or the knight on the left first. That extra dice was a 4, so actually he ends up taking a 2nd wound out of that, so not as bad. And we want, bring this to front. So now he's got 2 wounds. And we'll roll again 1 more dice on the knight here. And it was a 2, so it didn't do any more damage. So good. That didn't mess up our setup here. Alright, so this knight here would like to get rid of some of these wounds, so he's going to do an attack. So he is doing 5 dice. 5d6. And obviously attacking the goblin with a melee attack. He rolls 2, 3, 3, 6, 6. This, because he has the holy sword and it's on a knight, if this weapon is given to a knight, each rolled 6 during an attack, the knight actually heals 1 wound. Remember, we made his death saving throw, by the way. So he's actually removes 2 wounds, which is awesome for him. And then he does, let's see, each roll 1, looks like he does 2 points of damage to this goblin over here. The 2 6s are hits. Oh, I can't take it from him. That would be cheating, wouldn't it? We'll just put them up on top here. 2 wounds to the goblin up there. He passes activation to the next goblin. And we're going to Obviously, I'm going real slow here, kind of describing how things are going and different things. So obviously, this is taking a little while. I figured it would, so we're just going to be back in the next episode. We'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching.